Big changes are coming to New Hampshire rental laws, and if you're a landlord or a tenant, this could directly impact you. A new law now allows landlords in many situations to end a tenancy simply because the lease expired, even without traditional good cause. So what does that actually mean? Can landlords suddenly kick people out? What protections still exist? And how is this going to affect the New Hampshire rental market overall? Let's talk about it. So how the old law worked. Before this law change, many residential tenants in New Hampshire had pretty strong protections, even after their lease expired. In a lot of cases, landlords couldn't simply decide not to renew a lease and ask someone to leave. They usually needed what's called good cause to terminate the tenancy. That meant things like non-payment of rent, lease violations, major property damage, illegal activity, or safety concerns. So even if the lease technically ended, the landlord often still needed a legally recognized reason to move forward with an eviction. A lot of tenants assumed, if I pay my rent and follow the rules, I can probably stay long term. And honestly, in many situations, that was true. So what the new law changes? Under this new law that changes significantly, starting in 2026, landlords in many situations can choose not to renew a lease at the end of the lease term, and the expiration itself can become sufficient grounds to recover possession of the property. That's the major shift. The landlord may no longer need to prove traditional good cause once the fixed lease period ends. Now, this does not mean landlords can change the locks, throw your belongings outside, shut off utilities, or skip the court process. They still have to provide proper written notice, follow New Hampshire landlord tenant laws, and formally go through the eviction process if needed. So the legal process itself hasn't disappeared, but what has changed is the reason landlords can use. And it's also important to remember that anti-discrimination laws still apply. A landlord can't refuse to renew a lease for illegal discriminatory reasons or retaliate against a tenant for protected actions. So what does this mean for landlords? For landlords, this creates a lot more flexibility. Some property owners felt stuck before, especially if they wanted to sell the property, move family into the home, renovate, raise rents to market value, or simply end the tenancy at the end of a lease. Under the prior rules, that could become difficult without proving a statutory reason. Now, landlords may have more control once a lease expires. And honestly, I think some smaller landlords may actually feel more comfortable staying in the rental market because they know they have a clearer exit strategy if things aren't working long term. So what does this mean for tenants? Tenants, this is obviously a pretty major shift. Previously, many renters felt like as long as they paid on time or took care of the property and followed the lease, they could likely continue renting indefinitely. Now, there may be less certainty after a lease term ends. That means renters should pay closer attention to renewal timelines, lease expiration dates, communication from their landlords, and future housing plans. And it's important to know there are still protections in place. Landlords still cannot discriminate illegally. They cannot retaliate against tenants for protected actions, and certain subsidized or federally regulated housing may still follow different rules entirely. So let's talk about how this could impact the New Hampshire real estate market. From a real estate perspective, this could have ripple effects across the New Hampshire housing market, especially in high demand areas like Portsmouth, Exeter, Dover, Hampton, and the Seacoast. Some landlords may feel more confident holding on to investment properties now that they have more flexibility at lease expiration. Others may become more willing to offer longer-term leases knowing they have a clearer path when the lease ends. But on the flip side, tenants may feel increased pressure surrounding renewals and long-term housing stability, especially in a market where rental inventory is already tight and affordability continues to be a challenge. So regardless of which side you're on, this is definitely a law worth understanding. So this is one of the biggest changes we've seen to New Hampshire landlord tenant law in a long time. And whether you're a landlord, tenant, investor, or just someone trying to understand how the market is evolving, it's important to know how this works before you find yourself in this situation. If you have questions about New Hampshire real estate, rentals, or investment properties, feel free to reach out. And if you found this video helpful, hit subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments, and share this with someone renting or owning property in New Hampshire, because a lot of people don't realize this law changed. You guys tell me what you think. You think this law is fair? Would this make you more or less likely to become a landlord? Or should tenants have stronger protections? Let me know your thoughts. I'll talk to you soon.